Chapter 1. Wanda. Today, Monday, Wanda Petronsky was not in her seat. But nobody, not even Peggy and Madeline, the girls who started all the fun, noticed her absence. Usually Wanda sat in the next to the last seat in the last row in room 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who did not make good marks on their report cards sat. The corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet, most roars of laughter, and when anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. Wanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all, and nobody had ever heard her laugh out loud. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into a crooked sort of smile, but that was all. Nobody knew exactly why Wanda sat in the seat, unless it was because she came all the way from Boggin's Heights, and her feet were usually caked with dry mud that she picked up coming down the country roads. Maybe the teacher liked to keep all the children who were apt to come in with dirty shoes in one corner of the room, but no one really thought much about it. Wanda Petronsky, once she was in the classroom. The time they thought about her was outside of school hours, at noontime, when they were coming back to school, or in the morning early before school began, when groups of 2 or 3, or even more, would be talking and laughing on their way to the schoolyard. Sometimes they waited for Wanda to have fun with her. The next day, Tuesday, Wanda was not in school either, and nobody noticed her absence again, except the teacher and probably Big Bill Byron, who sat in the seat behind Wanda's, and who could now put his long legs around her empty desk, one on each side, and sit there like a frog, to the great entertainment of all in his corner of the room. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Mattie, who sat in the front row, along with the other children who got good marks and didn't track in a whole lot of mud, did notice that Wanda was not there. Peggy was the most popular girl in school. She was pretty, she had many pretty clothes, and her auburn hair was curly. Mattie was her closest friend. The real reason Peggy and Mattie noticed Wanda's absence was because Wanda had made them late to school. They had waited and waited for Wanda to have some fun with her, and she just hadn't come. They kept thinking she'd come any minute. They saw Jack Beggles running to school, his necktie askew and his cap a precarious tilt. They knew it must be late, for he always managed to slide into his chair exactly when the bell rang, as though he were making a touchdown. Still, they waited 1 minute more and 1 minute more, hoping she'd come. But finally, they had to race off without seeing her. The 2 girls reached their classroom after the doors had been closed. The children were reciting in unison the Gettysburg Address, for that was the way that Miss Mason always began the session. Peggy and Mattie slipped into their seats just as the class was saying the last lines. That these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall, under God, have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.